Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. I am blessed and honored to have with me today the great YST. If you guys have not been paying attention to a lot of YouTube stuff, he's a wonderful content creator, does a lot of clan boss stuff, so I know he's going to interest you guys. Definitely worth paying attention. He's one of the few content creators I actually watch on YouTube. So definitely give him a shout out. Go subscribe to his channel when we're done here. I'll have all that linked and linked in the pinned comment and description of the video below. He's got the Genzin mask on. I really loved his Genzin. Your Genzin poll. I actually watched that. That was great. Also, if you guys watched that Raidzilla from the Saffron Awards show, the Raid Awards, yeah, this is the guy that kicked it all off. It was awesome. It was an awesome time. So hey, YST, thank you so much for coming on, man. This is awesome.
Yo, I appreciate it, man. I'm so looking forward to this. Like, it's going to be a great collaboration, and looking forward to speaking about some underrated champions when referring to the clan boss, and looking forward to your choices as well. So really excited for this.
Yeah, should be fun. We're going to be talking about, we each brought our list of top 5 champions that we feel are, criminally underrated in the clan boss. Maybe they're not top tier. I mean, they're underrated, right? For a reason. But they're all useful in the clan boss. We're going to want to bring them into the game one way or another. So I'm actually really excited to hear your list as well, because I'm pretty sure we're going to have some different ones. There's just so many options in this game. Like, I was putting this list together. I had like 10 or 15 different choices. I was like, oh man, I got to choose 5 out of this. This is harder than I thought. But this should be pretty good. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you, YST, for coming by and doing this. So let's go look at the champions. Let's look at our lists. All right, YST, why don't you start us off? Let's go with your champions. We'll start with your number 5 on your list, of 5 like underrated champions to go with here.
All right, so I want to kick it off with someone that's pretty dear to me, and people seem to not like it. Well, not say like this champion, but when it comes to the clan boss, they tend to not think about this champion a lot. And he goes by the name of Tyrant Ixlimor from the Demon Spawn. You kind of think of him as an amazing Doom Tower champion, HP burn for the spiders. But when it comes to the clan boss, he's got a kit that's really, really amazing. So if you want to start off here with the A3 ability, we've got the ally protection and an increased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. And it only takes 1 book. This is an amazing ability. If you did not know, ally protection is one of the most strongest buffs in Raid. Period, especially when you're talking about the clan boss. If you head into the A2, he's got a AoE burn, which is amazing for other areas of the game. Also on his A1, he heals from damage inflicted when the target is under HP burn. So if you think about ally protection champions like Tarogi the Frog, where he's kind of got a self-healing mechanic, this dude pretty much has a very similar thing. And heading into the passive of the Fires of Doom, decreases damage inflicted by enemies under HP burn debuffs by 10%. A lot of people kind of forget he's got this damage mitigation in his passive, and it really does lead to like extra turns in your runs. Really underrated champion.
He's super good. He's super good. I'm so glad you brought him up, because I think you're right. He is somebody that a lot of people don't think about bringing in. Ally protection champions, generally you try to run 2 of them if you can, and that can make it a little trickier to use a champion like Tyrant. But if you can bring him into your team, he's really strong. He hits hard. He's going to give you that HP burn, which means he has like built-in lifesteal, essentially. The ally protection is going to keep your team alive. The increased defense, like, literally has all the things you want. And you're right, that passive is super, super underrated. Absolutely love it. All right, so I'm going to name my number 5 champion. It's probably someone, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that this was going to be on the list, because I absolutely love this champion. Steelskull is phenomenal, and it kind of has a very unique kit. It's not going to work for every team, but the teams he does work for it's really a big help, and was for me my only poisoner for a long time in clan boss. My healer, my only poisoner, just like kind of made my whole team sing. And the reason why is it's so much in his kit, right? We've got poison on the A1. It's not a high percentage chance, but it's on the A1. So if you have counterattack, you're going to get a lot of options at that. We have a cleanse and a single target heal, very big heal on that A2 skill. That's really nice, especially now that we can actually assign skill priority, right? I wasn't able to do that back when I was using him. This makes him a lot better, because you can now cleanse things like the stun. And then his A3 is an increased defense buff and heal for your entire team, which is very, very nice. He has an aura that's not going to help us at all. But like, I love this champion because He's an alternative way to bring poison into your team. He brings you increased defense and healing, so your whole team can stay alive just a little bit longer. And I find that to be really, really helpful when you're going into clan boss. For me, having increased defense up for the entire fight is something that I really try to do when I'm doing a traditional clan boss team. And having a champion like Steelskull can really make that happen. And he's bringing other things like healing, like a cleanse, like poisons. So it's not a nothing spot in my team order, which is really nice.
I love this champion. Like, when I was first reaching the Ultra Nightmare Clan boss, this dude was pretty much like, I think he was one of my only AoE healers at the time, because back then there wasn't a huge kind of ton. And also, if you look at his base speed, one thing that I really struggle with, or you guys might be struggling with, is speed on the clan boss. And this dude has a base of 111. That is insanely high for like a support champion of this caliber. And as you said, poison's one of the most vital debuffs on the clan boss, period. We got the cleanse and that AoE increased defense. Amazing champion for sure.
It's huge. Yeah, you're right about that base speed being 111, trying to get him up to like that 240 speed. You need to go at a 4-3 ratio. That is one of the downsides to him, but with that high base speed, it's not as hard as it would be for a lot of other champions. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. My number 4 is a new champion, somebody that I think a lot of people, I'm saying this is kind of being slept on simply because she's new and we haven't had a lot of opportunity to use her in a lot of teams, but definitely somebody you're going to want to bring in for clan boss. And the person is going to be Felecia. I really like Felecia for clan boss. Now, there's always caveats to these kinds of champions, right? Because they're not going to be great everywhere, otherwise they'd be the meta champions. But she has a lot going on in her kit. The A1 is not a huge thing, right? It's got a debuff spread, but there's only the clan boss. We don't have to worry about spreading anything. The A2 is one of the ones that I really like because it's a increase the duration of debuffs. And whenever you have a chance to increase the duration of debuffs, that makes everything so much easier. If you drop decreased defense, if you drop decreased attack, if you drop weaken, that's bad things happen for your team. So any chance you get to increase that is definitely going to be positive for your squad. And then the last skill, the A3 here, places a decreased defense for 2 turns. So we've got a decreased defense. There's no percent chance on this. This is going to land as long as you have the accuracy for it, right? So you have decreased defense in her kit. You have buff extension, debuff extension in her kit. And all of that is on a 3-turn cooldown. And in addition to that, there is a thing where when an enemy attacks under decreased defense and hits her, there's a 50% chance of placing Hex. Now, that doesn't mean anything for her. Hex, as we all know, is the worst debuff in the game and does absolutely nothing. But for some champions, it can be really useful. And so with her in the team, you're getting your decreased defense, you're extending the duration of those debuffs, and then if you bring in a Hex champion to do damage, they're going to be effective because we're going to keep Hex up for pretty much the entire fight as well. So this is a champion that I think is a little bit underrated. Definitely somebody to keep an eye out for. Won't work for every team, but for some teams can be, I think, pretty good.
That's a really interesting champion there because I've actually never thought of her being in a clan boss team myself, personally. So I'm quite surprised by that one, but I can see where she has a lot of use, for sure. Really
if you can pick the right champion to pair with her, it works really well. I did a run with her and another champion. I have a video for it somewhere in my vault that I have to pull out and actually put on YouTube. But I have a video of that with her and another Hex champion doing really good damage. She's not a great damage dealer on herself, so she's not like spectacular. But if you are trying to use a Hex champion in Clan Boss, she's one of those ones that can really enable that and maybe make it worth it for you. So yeah, she's not too bad. She's not too shabby.
That's fun,
yeah, don't sleep on her, right? What's your number 4, YST?
All right, so next up, if you head into the Lizardman, or if you've got him out here in your inventory, will be Aox the Rememberer.
Boom, got you.
Amazing champion, guys. So when this dude came into the game, he was actually, I did quite a lot of videos on this guy as well, and if you're not running unkillable, and you're not running 2-to-1 ratio teams, and you don't have like a vast majority of champions, Aox is one of those champions that you can put into any team, and he's going to be useful. And he's also great for bringing other areas as well. So on the A1, very similar to a Steelskull like we mentioned earlier, he's got like a low chance of placing the big version of the poison with a 2-time hitter. Attacks one enemy, heals all allies by 10% of their max HP, and heals each ally by an extra 2.5% for each debuff on the target. So if you're considering how much debuffs you're placing on the clan boss, this is a really substantial heal, for sure. Heading into that A3, places a decreased attack on all enemies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Key, places. So it does not matter about the affinities that you're going into. He's just going to be putting this up, and it's really amazing. Also on his passive, increases the duration of 2 random debuffs on the attacker by 1 turn when attacked, and occurs once per hit. So if you start thinking about affinity clan boss, when you're getting hit like 4 times, you're going to see those debuffs just spreading everywhere, and it really does lead to some great damage in like the grand scheme of things. I'm a huge fan of this epic.
I really liked Aox. I remember when the kit came out, I was like, oh, this is like Steelskull meets Bulwark. This is really fun. It's a very cool kind of kit. And I think we're starting to see some similarities of the types of champions that we're talking about, right? People that either offer something, that offer more than one skill, and maybe their weak spot is actually the damage they're doing as opposed to the skills that they're bringing to the table, right? Aox, I mean, you're right. Like, the poisons are great, right? Just like Steelskull can kind of do the job for you. The heal, this is a crazy heal. I hadn't really, I'll be honest, I've never played with Aox myself, so I didn't even realize that was going to be for each debuff on the target. So that's like adding, with 8 debuffs, that's another 20% to that heal. So it's a 30% heal. That's massive. As an AoE heal, that's a massive heal. That's great. And then you're right. Placing that decreased attack means you're going to have it, and they're all on 3-turn cooldown, so real easy to speed tune for your champions and stuff. Dang, that's a good one, man. I like that one.
Really solid. He's actually really good in the Hydra boss as well on like the first rotation. So if you're using like Geomancers, which is like the big hooray at the moment, having an Aox, because of his passive, whenever the Hydra heads are hitting you, he's able to extend those HP burns and kind of make your Geomancer's HP burn last for longer. So just a little tip if you wanted to use him in the future.
That's really smart. I mean, on top of that, you were talking about the places decrease attack. Even in this rotation that we're dealing with currently, that poison cloud's not going to stop that, or at least it shouldn't, right? When you're placing that, it's not an attack that should go on through it. I haven't tested it, can't swear to this, but
all right. So the next one's going to be in the Undead Hordes. And I think I've actually mentioned this in a previous video I did with Hades, and he goes by the name of Vogoth, and people tend to, he's great everywhere, right? As a support champion. I'll just wait if you can find him. There he is. And what he's down to is, if you head into the passive on the right-hand side first, whenever he's attacked, places a leech debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. Leech is extremely powerful, especially when you're trying to heal off your champions without a lifesteal set. And having a leech on there on a consistent basis just from being attacked, that's up for the entirety of the run. It literally never drops off. If you head into the first passive there, whenever this champion is attacked, heals all allies by 50% of the damage received, but he only receives 25% from boss attacks, so that's all it's going to be for the clan boss. And then this champion only receives half of the heal that all other allies receive. Between these 2 passives alone, you're going to be supporting some crazy damage, especially if you start bringing damage mitigation, which is a big topic that I like to speak about with like Geomancers and Venomages. Really great passives. And also on the A1, if you proc it with a Giant Slayer, deals some great damage and increases the duration of 1 random debuff on the target by 1 turn. So very much like a mini Vizier. And that's pretty much what you're using this dude for. Really underrated for the clan boss. 100%.
If you use him in clan boss, do you ever use his A2 or do you just turn that off?
No, you completely block it off because the target has to be under a provoke to place the decreased attack, unfortunately. But otherwise, it would have been amazing.
Yeah, well, and we're better off getting the 3 attacks from the Giant Slayer anyway.
Yeah.
You're right. Vogoth is kind of fantastic. And, I think at this point in the game, when I was coming up, I think for the basically until like this last year, when you were playing the game, if you were early level, if you were trying to do clan boss, you built everybody in lifesteal. That's all you did. You just accumulated as much lifesteal gear as you could. That was how you do clan boss. We don't do that anymore. And a big part of the reason is we have a lot more options as far as ways to heal our team. Not just champions like Battle Khazar or Operdin or Aox, remember, or Steelskull. Yeah. We got those options, right? But we also have champions like Vogoth that bring in leech debuff. And you're right, this is a massive debuff to bring in, and that gives you a free way to kind of heal your champions up. And you're right, his passive ability is really strong. That's why he's obviously one of the more meta champions in arena. Makes a very tanky defense because he's going to heal people up. But I think he's a great choice for clan boss.
Just apart from the increase in the durations on the A1, could be pretty useful. Granted, it's only on a 40% chance, but when you consider each hit, it does kind of work out pretty nice. But right, apart from that, it doesn't bring too much. But keeping your team alive, you don't have to bring him in fast speed, which is pretty great because his heal is based off passives. So if you're struggling to get a fast speed on your champions and you're trying to progress, just having this dude sitting there at the slowest in your speed tune, you don't really need him to take much turns to be effective. So yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I wish he had more because I'd like to bring him into more high-level clan boss teams. But I think this guy really is going to shine at lower levels where you're literally just struggling to stay alive, right? When you get hit, you get a heal straight up. You have that leech so that you can heal up more as you go along. I think he's absolutely really, really good for clan boss. I'm really glad you brought him up because you're right. He is somebody that gets overlooked a lot, especially like I think as we get into later games. We're expecting more out of our champions. And I don't know that Vogoth is a top-tier clan boss champion, but he's really, really good. He's just generally better in other areas, so we end up using him in other like I use my Vogoth in Doom Tower. I use him in Arena. I don't use him in clan boss. Yeah. But I think he's totally excellent for that. Like I'm trying to build a second one so I can have him for clan boss stuff. I mean, in all honesty.
I've used him in the Hydra boss as well on rotation 3.
There you go. Have I? I haven't.
No, he's really amazing because when ahead of Wrath procs, we all know how it happens, and he really does keep your team alive. Because I was getting one shot and I got really annoyed in the last rotation because all of my champions got wiped. But bringing this dude in, he makes it a breeze.
Yeah, he's got so much utility in this game. Well, cool. I like this. This is a fun little project we're doing here. I like it. I'm looking at champions all new too. Let me pull up this doozy of mine. This is a champion. This is one of my first videos was on this champion, like clan boss team using this champion. Got a lot of views. People tend to really like it. I really like it because I think she's maybe the most underrated clan boss champion. I'm talking about Nazana. Nazana is sneaky good for clan boss. Now she's not great, right? She's not going to deal hardly any damage. There's definitely some limits to her kit, but what she does do, she does really well. Her primary thing is this ally protection. This is her A2 skill. It's a big ally protection, but it also places a massive shield on her, like a 40% of her max HP shield. The shield's just on herself. It's not on her allies, so it's not quite the same as Taragi does. She brings other things to the table, like she brings a decreased attack to the table. It's not 100%. It's 75%, though. It's actually a pretty high chance to land it. So if I was going to use her in Clan Boss, there's a variety of champions you could pair her with that maybe don't have a 100% chance to land decreased attack. That's a little bit less common, and she's like the main decreased attack champion, but then you have backups available, and she can be really good in that sense, right? So she's bringing that ally protection with that massive shield means that she's not going to die from those AoE hits, and that's at least from the first one, and that's the big thing. Her A1 is just an attack thing, so nothing special there. She's not like a spectacular champion, but I think so many people sleep on her, and if you are doing anything less than Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, just bring in an ally protection champion in your team. You will last like an extra 10, 15, 20 turns or longer. Like it is such a game-changing effect to your team, right? Obviously, it's we're not talking unkillable teams, but for traditional teams, absolutely game-changing effect. So somebody like this, I think, could be really useful. There were a lot of other options I was thinking about bringing in for this as possible like sleeper champions, but she's just one of the ones that I've always had a soft spot for. I think she's really, really good at this.
Yeah, it's a really great champion. Even though it's on a 3-turn cooldown as well, which is pretty helpful. So you don't have to go at like a 4-3 ratio or anything. Just straight up, easy to tune. Pretty solid champion. I agree.
This one is another champion that I use coming up that was absolutely massive. Oh, I don't even have him in here anymore. I don't use this champion anymore, but I have the softest spot, and I'm talking about Bulwark. Bulwark is just a beast for Clan Boss. Like I use Bulwark to get me from Nightmare to Ultra Nightmare. And the team I was running, I don't think I even had Rosin. I think I was running Tayrel to give me my decreased defense. And so I needed someone that could give me weaken. And for me, that was Bulwark. And he was massive. So he has a weaken on his A1. It's the smaller version, but the difference between having even this and not having weaken at all is massive. So whenever you can bring in these debuffs, you want to, and he brings that. He also has an HP burn, which is really nice. On top of that, all his skills can hit decently hard. He's not going to knock your socks off, right? But he is going to be able to put up some very solid damage numbers, raw damage numbers for your team as well. The big thing about Bulwark, of course, this is the part that people love, is his passive ability, where when he's attacked, has a 30% chance to extend the duration of all debuffs on the attacker. It's very similar to like what we were talking about, I think it was Aox or Remember, right? Where they get hit and extends debuffs. He does the same thing, except it's going to extend all the debuffs, duration of all the debuffs, not just a few. And it is a 30% chance to land. So when you're facing Affinity, it's a much higher chance to keep those debuffs up for the full fight. This is how I was able to use Steelskull as a poisoner, Tayrel is my decreased defense champion, and a Bulwark in there and keep debuffs on for the whole fight, is because of that passive ability there. On top of that, he has a pretty solid all battle defense aura, so you can use him as your lead champion and clan boss. His base HP is abysmally low, but his base defense is solid and his base speed is solid. So it is, I'm actually showing, let me show this so you guys can see. Yeah, so his base HP is horrendous. I mean, absolutely horrendous. It's worse than, some commons, I feel like. The defense is solid though, and the speed is solid. So he's not incredibly hard to build for clan boss. One of the interesting thing though, you do want him taking that stun so he can extend those debuffs. Having low HP isn't a bad thing for the stun, because the stun's an HP based hit. So the more HP you have on your champion, the more damage they take. Having him with low HP but high defense is actually good. So if you can keep him alive through the AoEs, that's actually not a bad base stats to be basing everything off of. So I love Bulwark. That's my like super secret bring in a team and help you out kind of champion.
Yeah, I remember when ages ago, like I'd say about 2 years ago now, when Bulwark came into the game, when this dude came, like there was hardly any increased defense passives, auras. And there was like Tayrel, there was Bulwark, and at the time I didn't have a Tayrel, and this dude was literally so clutch and reaching me to get to Ultra Nightmare. So amazing.
Yeah,
I did kind of have to rely on Affinity to get full use of his passive, but overall, he was a great stun target. Yeah. I missed that guy.
One of the other things, he's a Void champion. He actually makes a really good stun target for the budget unkillable team too. Like his obviously like his stats are in the complete opposite way. His high defense and low HP, which we want to switch for that. But if you can do that, he's great, because he's going to extend the duration of the debuffs your allies put on him. He has an HP burn to add to that total too. So YST, who's your second best champion? Who's the number 2 guy you have in your list?
Okay, so we're going to talk about accessibility and people that's been around the game for a long time. And it was a Battle Pass champion, and we're still waiting for Battle Pass 2, but it's Wyrlings, the Void legendary that everybody goes, ugh, when they pull him. But I tell you what, guys, he's actually a lot better than people give him credit for, and he's someone that I invested books in, and that says a lot. So if we head into the A3 here, which is the main topic, which is Clan Boss, places a 25% strengthen and an increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. So if you're still struggling to have like a ally protection in your team, strengthen is a really good substitute for ally protection. Like we kind of mentioned this on my channel in the collaboration we did earlier in the week, but strengthen is really underlooked by a lot of the player base. And I've actually had players say to me, is strengthen better than increased attack? And I'm like, no, it's the damage mitigation. Like lots of people think that strengthen just makes you stronger or something. But yeah, it's a really great A3. A2, pretty okay, but not much for the clan boss. And the A1 is okay, but it places like a normal veil on someone with the lowest HP, which can actually help out pretty much. So putting a veil on your champions, not the perfect veil because it's not under a freeze, it applies a 7.5% damage mitigation. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's 7.5%. Right. So it's really amazing if you think about that. If your champion is about to die, manages to kind of put a damage mitigation on that champion. But yeah, overall, I think he's a bit of a sleeper. Holds a bit of a dear to my heart, but just because I pulled 3 and I'm scared to empower. But life moves on.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. They recently changed his kit in one of the recent updates, and that actually did a lot for him and made him way more viable for things like clan boss, because initially this ice grave armor was like a 4-turn cooldown, and it's just like it didn't make a lot of sense to bring him into your team. But dropping that to a 3-turn cooldown all of a sudden made this guy incredibly valuable, incredibly viable. You get increased defense and strengthen, and those 2 buffs, I think strengthen can be more impactful for your, it depends on how much defense you have on your champions, but it can be more impactful than an increased defense buff for your team, depending on how they're built. And it can do a lot of damage mitigation. So you can really keep your team alive. On top of that, he hits hard. He hits really hard. You build him with crit rate, you build him with crit damage. Like, this dude can slap. defensive-based champion, easy to keep alive in that sense. And you're right, the A2 isn't really going to bring us anything that we want to put on the boss. Skill hits decently hard, but you can just go with the A1. My only concern with his kit is that Veil potentially throwing off who's taking the stun. It is just for one turn, so it's not like a super long duration. So you should be able to HP tune your team to make sure that you're getting the right champion, have Veil, which can benefit you as opposed to hurt you. But that is something I would definitely be keeping an eye out on if you're going to use him. But oh man, he's a good one. That's a great champion to bring in. That's a good one, definitely. So who's your last champion that you got? Who's your most underrated top tier guy that you would go with?
I'm really like, I had this kind of presumption before we came into the video, and now I'm like, can I do this? Okay, so I was going to say Dark Kael, but I'm not going to now. I'm going to think about someone that is close to my account, and he was an OG, and I screamed like he was a Siffy back in the day. We mentioned him briefly earlier, but it's got to be Tayrel. I have to put him there. I'm sorry. He's just my OG. Yeah. I don't know. His kit is so basic, but I don't know, guys. He just holds so much utility, and he's just stood the test of time, right? Like, if you think about how long he's been in the game and the kind of impact he does still have on people's accounts to this day, he is so amazing. And I see a lot of players messaging me like, is Tayrel good? And they don't really realize how impactful the A1 attacking 2 times is. So if you want to kind of have a consistent decreased attack and you're struggling with someone like a Sepulchre Sentinel or a Jareg, or just kind of ones off the top of my head who does single attacks, placing it twice is really great. Also a drop defense on the A2. We kind of block off the A3, but also an increased allied defense in all battles by 25%. I had to put him there. I was going to say Dark Kael, but I have to.
I think that's fine. Dark Kael's getting some underground momentum, so I'm sure in a couple weeks it's going to be one of the more OP champions. People are going to be like, "Oh, this guy's top tier. Don't worry about it." But I love this. I love this choice of Tayrel. Absolutely love it, because I think Tayrel is phenomenal. I used Tayrel when I was doing my clan boss teams, and like game-changing champion, right? Because one of the things I think people forget when it comes, or don't figure out initially when it comes to clan bosses, there's so many things you need to do. You need your champions to do multiples, right? You need them to give you you need decreased attack, decreased defense, weaken, poisons, HP burn. You also need increased defense, ally protection. You need healing on top of that, right? Like, there's so many things that you need to bring into the table, and you only have 5 champions to do that. They only do like 1 or 2 things each of them. And there's some great champions that just do one thing, or just do, or don't do anything but do really good damage. So the more skills that a champion can bring to the table, buffs and debuffs, the better it is for your entire team. Tayrel does 2 of those skills extremely well. And on top of that, he has, like you said, that awesome aura. So he's got a defensive champion. You're right. That decreased attack is one of the most consistent decreased attacks in this game, because you have to remember, every time that somebody attacks, there's always a 3% chance that they're going to get resisted, even if you have the right accuracy. So nothing's 100%. Having double the opportunity to land this is massive for that. Decreased defense absolutely is huge. I love this. And for a long time, he was my only decreased defense champion on my team. It's one of the reasons why I brought in Bulwark, to help keep that debuff up for the full fight. Really good. And I know we were talking about the preemptive strike. This is a skill that we turn off. This skill hits stupid hard. Stupid hard. So when you start getting to the higher levels and you're like, I need raw damage for my champion, this is a skill you can keep on. You can turn it off if you want to and just ensure that decreased attack is up, but keeping that on isn't a bad choice either. This actually makes him really good. Like, these skills make him amazing in dungeons and all over the place. And you're right, this guy is slept on because he's one of the oldest champions we've had in this game. He's been good from day one. But I mean, we've gotten so many new champions that can do so many other things. I think he is getting overlooked. If you pull this guy in your account, that's a massive win for you. He just made your clan boss life so much easier. God, you're taking me back in time. I'm like, I remember when putting him in your team was like automatic, like, oh, okay, we did it. We got somewhere. We're in good shape now. I don't have to worry.
Literally, I pulled this guy back in the day, and I was almost off my chair. I was screaming. I was like, "Yes,
Yeah.
I got a Tyrell." Like back then was just a completely different game. Now, if you get Tyrell, you're like, "All right, we haven't got a legendary yet. Let's just keep going." But guys, he's so amazing, man. Deadwood. Before we kind of wrap things up, shall we do one honorable mention? So someone that may not be super OP, but someone that you kind of have a lot of fun with, that has a lot of potential. Is anyone that comes to mind?
I mean, I have lots of champions that come to mind. I feel like you have one though on the top of your head. Yeah. So why don't you go ahead? Tell us who you're talking about.
So for me, it's someone that's pretty new to raid, and it's Hitatsu. And guys, I don't know. For some reason, people just don't like him for the clan boss. And I know you wasn't a big fan as well when we spoke about him previously. Because of how inconsistent is on his A2. But when we talk about the first champion that I spoke about with Rearguard Sergeant, really great pairing synergy. And I'll just wait for Deadwood to find him if he's not in the vault.
There he is.
Let's just quickly start off with the A1. So he's got a leech. As we mentioned earlier, leech is extremely powerful. A2, he has the decrease attack, and it's on an AoE. So if you consider faction wars as well, a really great champion to bring in. But as Deadwood was kind of saying in a previous video, is inconsistent. So it's kind of, you want to bring in maybe another decrease attack champion like a Rearguard Sergeant who also has a similar problem.
Like a Nazana.
Or like a Nazana. And they really do pair off each other. Really great. On the A3, increased defense and continuous heal. A really great pair for this could be... Actually, I'm going to stick with Rearguard Sergeant because that's my chick. But yeah, increased defense, continuous heals, decrease attack, a leech. And the one thing that I have a bit of an issue with Deadwood, and I think it's broken, is the passive. So when I first got this champion, or he came into the game, it reads, removes one random debuff from this champion at the start of each turn, will remove stun, sleep, etc. in this order.
This passive works the same way as Skull Crushers. It's the same concept, right? Where they take the stun, they're cooled down, like they take the stun, all their skills are delayed one turn, and then at the start of their turn, like their skills are delayed. And instead of losing their turn, the stun comes off. But the skills haven't cooled down at all.
Apart from that anyway, his kit is really solid. And he also has a Tayrel effect with the aura of the increased ally defense. So that was my honorable mention. Have you thought of anyone yet?
It's a good one. No, that's a great one. Well, I mean, as an honorable mention, I should probably just, my girl Hope. This is like super under the radar. Nobody thinks about it for Clan Boss. And for... understandable reasons. There's a reason why I didn't bring her up in when we were talking about this, but she has some stuff that you just, I don't know. There's some stuff in her kit that's really good. Most notably, she increases the duration of all buffs. She's a buff extender, and we sleep on that. And the biggest reason why is a 4-turn cooldown. So one of the best reasons for bringing in a buff extender so you can run your 3/3 champions and keep all your buffs up. You don't have to bring in somebody else to bring in additional things. That's not the case, right? You have to run her fast in order to use her. But she does have some nice stuff in her kit, including a massive shield, like the very large shield that she puts on all allies. So you were looking for someone instead of a Taragi? Somebody like Hope might be able to fit that kind of bill for you. Yeah, exactly. It's a really nice buff, and extending the duration of all buffs is really good. Really nice shield buff, I should say. Her A1 is a block buff skill, which doesn't really come into much effect unless you're using a Valkyrie and dealing with affinity. And the A3 skill is a buff strip, which is okay. It's nothing crazy about that either. These skills can hit hard, though. She has solid multipliers. Unfortunately, they're attack-based. She is an HP champion with attack-based skills. My favorite thing in the world. So, there's some good stuff in her kit, but it wasn't quite enough to make it to my list. But I will tell you guys my number one champion that I think is kind of going on the radar right now and probably should be used. And I know there's some people that are using them because... smart people out there in this game, but I don't think commonly that we look at this champion and think clan boss. Talking about Tomb Lord. Tomb Lord's a beast. Tomb Lord's a beast, but he just got recently upgraded. Before the patch that fixed his kit, he was trash. Nobody liked him. Nobody used him. You couldn't use him in clan boss. Since the update, though, he is really, really good for clan boss. I mean, he's one of those solo dungeon farmers. He's great in all areas of the game, so people tend to use him in other areas. But we shouldn't sleep on the ability that he brings. Like, he's got decreased attack and a decreased defense all in one skill. That's really nice, right? It's on a 4-turn cooldown. That's something we can tune around. He's got a massive poison land, 4 poisons, 2 turns each. Assuming it's a crit, right? That's a huge buff. And that's a huge debuff, I should say. So that can be really good. It's a triple attack on the A1, so you could put Giant Slayer on him and have some effect. There's lots of good stuff going on with this theme. He's not OP, but man, does he bring a lot to the table. If you look at somebody like Draco, who brings poisons, decreased defense, and weaken, well, Tomb Lord's almost on that level, right? I mean, his cooldowns are 1 turn longer. He brings decreased attack instead of weaken debuff, but otherwise kind of the same. So, this is my number one choice there. Somebody that's going under the radar. I don't know if you agree with that, YST. Maybe people are using him. I'm just ignorant.
I'm happy that you mentioned him because I used my life tokens on this dude and I kind of regretted it for a little bit. But now you've given me like another reason and somewhere else to play him apart from just trying to solo farm. So yeah, I'm actually excited about that choice.
Yeah, Tomb Lord's great. I actually use him in a lot of areas of this game. I've really enjoyed getting him, and when I did, I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, but yeah, he's real fun. Well, cool. That's our 5. That's my 5. That's your 5. We even gave a bonus one in there, so that was exciting. But yeah, man, YST, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, I have all of his info linked down below in pinned comment description of this video. Please go give this dude a sub. He's super smart, really good at this game, and he's just an awesome dude. Just an awesome dude as well. I always get mixed up which way's which. But yeah, he's just awesome dude. So you definitely should give him a sub. Follow him on Twitch. Sub to him on YouTube. I think you guys are not going to regret that at all. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on. This was a blast.
Anytime. This is something that I've been looking forward to since I started my YouTube journey. I don't think you realize how much it means to be on this channel, because everybody who subscribed to my channel knows that I'm a huge fan of the Clan Boss, and people, I don't know, you're just someone that I've always looked up to. Is just what I'm trying to say. So I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, appreciate it, man.
Well, thanks, man. That's really sweet of you to say. I appreciate that a lot. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. You do great work. I watch your channel. I don't watch a lot of channels out there. I watch your channel for when you're doing stuff with the Clan Boss. So I definitely get some learning out of that. Okay. Wow. Yeah, you made me uncomfortable. This is great. I love it. Welcome back any single time you want. Thank you guys for coming by. I appreciate it. Hit that like, subscribe. Go like and subscribe this dude. It's worth it. It's worth your time. That's all we got for today. Till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.